is to be here today. And if you don't think you are so lucky to have Sydney in Utah, wow. When you think about what she has taken as an idea and built into the program it is today is very, very impressive. And there's never been a better time to do that than what is happening in Salt Lake and in Utah more broadly from a technology standpoint. You know, before I get started this afternoon, I would like to just ask each of the finalists to stand so we can see where you are in the audience this afternoon as you wait. Where are you? Stand up and let us recognize you. All right. Congratulations to each one of you. I know you've worked hard. I know in some cases you were surprised when you were nominated. I know in some ways you've got anticipation of where does the day end. I can tell you I sat in your shoes. I was reflecting last night about having won a similar award 8 or 9 years ago. And I share that story only because I sat in your shoes and I don't think I dreamed big enough. And I heard the challenge this afternoon as we started is, are we dreaming big enough? And I would tell you that as women, the opportunity has never been bigger. Our participation has never been less in the tech space, and I'm going to talk about that. But before I do, what I'd like to do is just run a quick video because I want to show you why I believe the potential and the possibilities to dream big are right now. If we could run the video, please.
The biggest challenge that we face in the world today, healthcare. It's all about healthcare access.
Jobs. There's hardly any jobs about.
World hunger and poverty.
People don't acknowledge that the global warming is killing the earth.
Inner city schools are falling further behind.
Privacy is decreased. They're taking it away from us.
Infrastructure,
congestion,
public safety.
You name it.
All right, a picture, a video is worth 1,000 words. And I can tell you that I'm convinced we are entering a revolutionary era for technology for business, and for society. Someone else agrees with me. Like any revolution, this will scramble and upend a lot of our traditional notions of who belongs at the table. This is going to open up immense opportunities for women across the industry and in STEM positions specifically. I realize the word revolution gets thrown around pretty freely in the business world, especially in the technology sector. But I'm using this word very intentionally. Some of you have already heard of a concept that we talk openly about called the Fourth Industrial Revolution. I want to walk you through the idea just a little bit because I think it has a deep relevance for you, your careers, your organizations, and our communities. Throughout modern history, industrial revolutions have coincided with the arrival of what are called general-purpose technologies, innovations that serve as drivers for whole categories of future innovations. The first industrial revolution of the late 18th and early 19th centuries, often known simply as the Revolution, gave us some basic elements of modern industrial society. Its general-purpose technology was the steam engine. The second industrial revolution of the late 19th and early 20th centuries is sometimes called the technological revolution. The general-purpose technology behind many of that period's breakthroughs was electricity. The third industrial revolution is one we're all very familiar with. The general-purpose technology of the personal computer led to the World Wide Web, the smartphone, the search engine, social media, online sharing economy that's given us businesses like Lyft, Airbnb, and Uber. 10 years ago, who would have imagined jumping into a stranger's house, to share their bed or their car on a strange city street. And now people are talking about the fourth industrial revolution, a new era of virtual reality, augmented reality, the Internet of Things, AI, autonomous vehicles, advanced robotics, 3D, and wearable tech. What these and other fourth industrial revolution innovations have in common is an unprecedented level of connectivity between people and people, between people and devices, and between devices and devices. It's the blending of the physical and the digital in whole new ways. What's the general purpose technology of this industrial revolution? It is the 5G network. After all, in an era that's all about fast, clear connections, the network that makes those connections possible is the key to everything else. I know all of you in Salt Lake are absolutely not strangers to 5G. Last month, the FCC announced that Salt Lake City will be a test site for 5G prototype networks and related technologies, including through Powder, the platform for open wireless data-driven experimental research. I think of Powder, I think about Salt Lake, I think about skiing, not about research. But what a great acronym for a Utah-based initiative. Also back in April, Verizon announced that Salt Lake City would be one of the 30 5G cities that we would turn up in 2019. And we're on track to do just that. Stay tuned. And while a lot of people have heard of 5G, not everyone gets just how truly revolutionary it is. I want all of you to get it because you're innovators and leaders, and this is going to have a huge impact on almost everything you do in the years to come. The main thing to get about 5G is that it's not just another G. It's not a sequel to 4G. It's not just the same thing done slightly better. 5G is so powerful that the best way to think about it is a wholly new technology. To illustrate, I want to share with you something we at Verizon call the 8 currencies or capabilities of a true 5G network. The first of these currencies is a very high peak data rate. Our 4G network can transmit data at somewhere between 100 megabits and a full gigabit per second. That's fast. But in a 5G world, think about 10 times faster, up to 10 gigabits per second. The second currency is an extremely robust mobile data throughput. In fact, 5G can handle 1,000 times larger data volumes than anything that has come before. The third currency is about latency, the time it takes for a signal to get from point A to point B. Today's 4G networks have averages of about 50 milliseconds. In 5G, it will be sub 10 milliseconds. The fourth currency is about the ability to connect lots of mobile devices. Think about people to devices, devices to devices. Today's ecosystem allows about 100,000 devices per kilometer. In tomorrow's world, think autonomous vehicles, it'll be 1 million devices per square kilometer. And that's what enables the emergence of the true Internet of Things. I know several of our partners are in the room today that are helping us to enable IoT or Internet of Things, in which you can tell your house, you'll be on your way home in 10 minutes, so the thermostat can be turned on. Or a medical implant can talk to a family member, a patient, or your doctor's office, or perhaps even call 911. For 5G, currency number 5 is the ability to keep up with mobile devices moving at high speed. This will be one of the very essential currencies as you think about the infrastructures that cities around the world are building for advanced transportation. Think about high-speed rail systems and how you would interact there. The sixth currency is something that's becoming more and more important priority for Verizon, and I would argue for the world, and that is energy efficiency. Our CEO, Hans Vestberg, has for a long time been a global leader in sustainable business practices, and he's very intent on reducing the carbon footprint of our company and the entire sector. 5G not only offers 10 times more battery life than 4G. How many of you have desperately tried to charge your phone somewhere in the last week, only trying to find an electrical plug-in? Think about 10 times more battery power. and only 10% of the current consumption of electricity. That puts Verizon on a pathway to being carbon neutral by 2035, an example we believe we need to set. The seventh currency is pretty simple, service deployment that's faster than ever before. And finally, the eighth currency, good old rock solid reliability, 99.999% reliability. When you expect and demand and rely on connectivity, it has to work. We're already seeing some of these amazing business applications that have become possible when companies and currencies are in place. Even at the very early moment in our development, one thing is clear. The possibilities of 5G are bigger than we thought, and it's our business customers, industry, and societal applications that are shaping innovation in this technology. They're incredibly eager to learn about how 5G can be customized for their specific needs. I know you're already hearing from companies interested in setting up operations in Salt Lake City and the Silicon Slopes precisely because this area is gaining access to 5G and is becoming a hub for technology. I was extremely honored to become the CEO of Verizon's business group this past April. All of a sudden, I was not only the highest ranked woman at Verizon, I was now responsible for a global enterprise that if it were an independent company would be in the Fortune 30. I'm not saying this to brag, I'm saying it to underscore an important point. I said earlier, did I dream big enough? I believe I got this opportunity as a direct result of the extraordinary pace of change in our industry. When I talked earlier about how we're entering a revolutionary era for tech and for business, this is what I'm talking about. When I mentioned how it will change a lot of traditional thinking about who belongs at the table, this is what I'm talking about. When I said this revolution is going to open up immense opportunities for women across our economy and around the globe, this is what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, to put it very bluntly, is that I got my opportunity to lead in part because of the rapid acceleration of technology. And our business was changing. New opportunities were opening up that required leaders who thought differently, had different ideas and experiences. That's what happens at a revolution. Let me press the point a bit further. The nature of the change that's happening in our industry means that no company can afford to exclude the best talent over something as trivial as whether or not you possess a Y chromosome. I had the pleasure of hosting a Verizon International Women's Day panel discussion a year or so ago. One of the participants was Bonnie McElveen Hunter, who you may know founded Pace Communications, was appointed U.S. Ambassador to Finland by George Bush, and is the first female chair of the Board of Governors of the American Red Cross. Bonnie said something very striking. She said, every nation's destiny, every business destiny stands in need of 100% of our resources. She was talking about people, men and women, and she was so right, especially at a time when all good ideas are a vital determinant of our success or failure. After all, to get the best ideas, you need the best people, regardless of their gender identity, their ethnicity, their nationality, their disability status, or their sexual orientation. But it's more, yes, woohoo! It's more than just having a diverse-looking workforce. If you really want to realize the full potential of that diversity and get the best ideas out of people, you must actively encourage them to be true to themselves and within their organization. Along with diversity comes inclusion and authenticity. Something that struck me in our panel exchange was the word fearless. It's a word I use often. I like it because it requires that each of us shows up fearless. And I know many of you in this audience recognize the power of that. It's not enough for us to simply encourage women to be fearless. We have to do far more to give them real opportunities to succeed. As a female executive at Verizon, I know how women's voices, talents, and perspectives can be overlooked and marginalized. Such marginalization may not always be conscious. In fact, I would argue it's often unintentional. But it still does real damage, not only to female employees, but also to companies themselves. because by holding their female employees back, these companies are settling for using way less than 100% of their best resources. It's not even individual companies that do this. Our society is doing it. There are countless research studies that talk about women in leadership positions. And one that I like to refer back to is a Pew Research Center study that said in 1990, 32% of employees in STEM were women. In 2016, that number went down. And today, only 1 in 4 jobs in STEM is held by a female. People talk about a digital divide. That divide has a very strong gender element, and this country is not going to thrive in the fourth industrial revolution if we allow that kind of divide to continue to persist. It's one of the major reasons why our company has made such a significant investment in an innovative learning program that is funding 150 schools across the country to enable education in elementary school learning environments with internet access, the tools and capabilities, the curriculum, so that kids start early, little boys and little girls, to examine and understand the possibility and power of the talent and the potential of STEM. We shouldn't forget about today, however, the female engineers and executives that we have. Our industry needs to get far more serious about accelerating progress right now, doing what is necessary to bring more highly qualified women into the very top of the industry. We need more women as CEOs, more women on boards, more women in leadership positions, and more women involved in our communities. For this to happen, we cannot see women's advancement as solely a woman's issue. It is a leadership issue, it is an economic issue, and on virtually all the panels and events I attend, Women for the Tech World have emphasized the importance of male engagement. It's one of the reasons I was excited to be here today, as I had a chance to talk to Sydney and recognize that men are part of WTC. It is how we further the opportunity for engagement, diversity, and inclusion. I'll close our event this afternoon perhaps with a story. I have been a longtime admirer of Sandra Day O'Connor, Justice O'Connor. Some of you know her story. She went to law school. She graduated by the way, a very credible law school, Stanford. She graduated from law school. She knocked on doors. And she knocked on doors and said, "I'd like a job." And she couldn't find a job. And finally, she was offered a job. She was offered an unpaid job as an attorney, only if she would sit with the secretaries. She took that job, and you know the rest of the story. She went on to become one of the most impactful Supreme Court justices we've known. I would argue she dreamed big. I would tell you that as we sit here today on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, we have an opportunity to dream big. I look around this room and I wonder, who will be the next female CEO? I wonder if in this room sits the first female president of the United States. I think we have nothing but opportunity, and I would argue that now is the time. We must seize the moment, dream big, and realize our full potential. Thank you very much.